I gave up comfort for 30 days. No bed, no couch, no chairs. You know that dumb moment when your brain goes, yeah, that's a good idea. And then 5 minutes later you realize you've just made a horrible mistake. Yeah, that was me. It started on a lazy Sunday. Nate and I were curled up on the couch like two cats in a sunbeam, binge-watching true crime shows and arguing over who was more chronically cozy. At some point, I said it. I bet I could survive without all this comfort crap for a month. No bed, no couch, no chairs, easy. Nate barked out a laugh, nearly spilling his beer. Babe, you barely survive Monday mornings with a memory foam mattress and 2 shots of espresso. Challenge accepted. We shook on it, one wish at the end of 30 days if I won. If I failed, I had to deep clean his car, aka the mobile dumpster. I was riding a high. I felt unstoppable. I was an idiot. Day 1, optimism is a hell of a drug. Morning came fast, too fast. Step 1, banish the bed. I dragged the mattress off the frame and shoved it against the wall. Our cheap IKEA couch got taped up with do not use sticky notes. Dining chairs, pushed into the garage like exiled traitors. Even the little stool at my vanity, gone. Standing in the middle of the apartment, I felt powerful, minimalist queen, survivor of the suburban wilderness. This is gonna be easy, I thought, setting up my sleep nest. Basically a comforter folded on top of a yoga mat. All day I was weirdly high energy. I texted my friends like, I'm doing this, send me floor sitting tips, like some deranged Pinterest mom. Nate kept giving me side eyes, lounging on the couch like a smug little king. But I didn't even care. I was floating on pure spite and ambition. First night sleeping on the floor. Comfort, 610. Pride, 1010. Lower back, 410. I knocked out fast, no major complaints. Honestly, I thought everyone was overreacting. Maybe I was built different. Day 2, pain says hello. The second morning hit different. I woke up feeling like I'd been body slammed by a dump truck. Every single joint complained. Hips, shoulders, back, hell. Even my wrists hurt from God knows what floor sleeping position I managed. Nate found me rolling around, trying to stand up without looking like a sea turtle. You good? He asked, failing to hide a smirk. Never better, I hissed, popping my hip like a 90-year-old ballerina. Going about my day was a fresh new hell. Breakfast, squatting awkwardly at the coffee table like some medieval goblin. Studying, kneeling in front of the couch, but not sitting while typing on my laptop on the seat. My thighs were trembling by noon. I was burning calories just existing. And work. Oh my God. I work part-time at a small bookstore downtown, and standing for long shifts isn't unusual. But normally there are chairs in the break room. This time, I awkwardly leaned against the wall, pretending to scroll my phone while my legs slowly gave out. When I finally got home, I collapsed onto the floor. First real craving to sit down, achieved. Still, I refused to show weakness. Nate suggested ordering takeout and watching a movie. I agreed, sitting cross-legged on the carpet while he lounged in sickening comfort. Second night sleeping on the floor. Comfort, 310. Pride, 810. Lower back, actively considering mutiny. Sleep was harder. I kept tossing and turning. It felt like every bump in the carpet was a personal attack. At 3 a.m., I actually whispered to the mattress leaned against the wall. I miss you. Day 3, the floor fights back. If day 2 was bad, day 3 was the boss battle. I woke up stiff. I mean full body rigor Morty stiff. It took me legit 5 minutes to stand without making old man noises. The floor had become my enemy. Every task was harder. Brushing my teeth, crouch and suffer. Putting on socks, Olympic event. Packing my backpack required strategic squatting. I had 2 lectures that day. Normally, I'd sit somewhere in the middle row, nice and invisible. Now, I perched awkwardly at the back of the room, standing like a mall cop. People stared, professors stared. At one point, a girl whispered, "Are you okay?" and offered me her chair. I panicked and said, "I'm doing a core challenge," like some influencer wannabe. Walking home from campus, I seriously debated quitting. But I thought about the spa weekend I planned to force Nate into if I won. I thought about not touching the horrifying underseat area of his car. I stumbled onward, floor warrior. Third night sleeping on the floor. Comfort, 210. Pride, 710. Lower back, filed formal complaint to human resources. At this point, even the yoga mat wasn't cutting it. I layered 2 extra comforters under me. Still felt like a human quesadilla, soft on the outside, suffering inside. Day 4, rage-fueled. By day 4, the floor and I were in an open war. I wasn't just sore anymore. I was angry. Mad at the floor. Mad at Nate's smug looks. Mad at myself for having a big dumb mouth. Small things set me off. Nate making himself popcorn and settling onto the couch with a sigh of exaggerated pleasure. A coworker casually leaning back in a chair and cracking his knuckles. Seeing a toddler in Starbucks, slouched in a cozy chair without a care in the world. Sitting was everywhere. Sitting was taunting me. I retaliated by becoming the pettiest version of myself. When Nate asked me to pass him the remote, I threw it at him. Not hard, but with just enough force to say, "Screw you and your lumbar support." He laughed, the jerk. Fourth night sleeping on the floor. Comfort, 210. Pride, 610. Lower back, seeking revenge. I slept badly, dreams about mattresses, about sinking into memory foam clouds, woke up twice, confused and cold. Day 5, public humiliation hits different. By day 5, my body wasn't even sore anymore, it had just given up. Pain was the new normal. Floor sleeping, normal. Constant squatting, normal. Slow descent into madness, you guessed it, normal. What wasn't normal? Meeting Nate's friends for lunch. We rolled up to this cute little taco place with picnic tables outside. The sun was shining. It should have been a vibe. Except chairs. Everywhere. Everyone sat down, casual as you please. Nate plopped next to his friend Josh, grabbing a menu while I just stood there. Josh gave me a weird look. "You good?" Nate chimed in too fast, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "She's doing this thing. No sitting for a month." Cue awkward silence. Cue me laughing way too loud and trying to look chill while casually squatting next to the table like a raccoon who learned English. Trying to eat tacos while squatting is something they should teach in the army. I kept dropping fillings, salsa dripped down my wrist, my thighs burned. Every time a server walked past, they did a double take like I was about to rob the place. By the end of the meal, my legs were vibrating, my dignity long gone. Reflection from day 5. Comfort, 110. Pride, 410. Social life, bruised. Lower back, just sending memes that say help. Day 6, when work betrays you. Saturday shift at the bookstore. Normally my favorite day, the vibes chill, people browse for hours, and I can sneak read poetry behind the counter. Not today. Today the floor decided to test my willpower. At first, I thought I could just lean casually against the counter. Nope, customers noticed. An older lady whispered, "Are you feeling faint, honey?" and tried to find me a chair. And I politely refused. She looked like she wanted to call an ambulance. Then, halfway through my shift, the manager caught me crouching behind the register, answering emails like some cursed goblin. He pulled me aside, confused. "Are you? Okay, you can sit on the stool, you know." Trying to explain, I'm voluntarily suffering for the next 24 days, made me sound absolutely unhinged. He just blinked and said, Cool, just don't pass out." I made it through sheer stubbornness, and 2 granola bars I ate crouched behind the nonfiction section. Reflection from day 6. Comfort, 010. Pride, 510 for surviving work. Energy, hanging by a thread. Lower back, openly weeping. Day 7, rock bottom maybe. Sunday. Day of rest. Except when you're me, and rest involves aggressively not sitting. Nate and I had planned a walk by the river trail. Sounded lovely, until I realized the trail had benches. Beautiful, clean, shady benches. Benches calling my name. I caught myself reaching for one absent-mindedly, then jerked my hand back like it was made of lava. Nate saw. Nate laughed. Nate is lucky I didn't throw him into the river. Halfway through the walk, my calves were screaming. My brain was negotiating. Maybe just lean on a tree. Trees don't count as chairs, right? I resisted. Barely. Later, we met a few friends for ice cream. They all sat on a low brick wall outside the shop, swinging their legs, laughing. I stood awkwardly, licking my cone, trying not to look like a lost child. Nate kept sneaking looks at me like he was so proud of himself for setting this trap. I swore revenge in at least 3 different ways under my breath. Reflection after week 1. Physical state, wrecked. Mental state, stubbornly feral. Relationship status, still together but I'm plotting. Floor versus me, floor winning by technical knockout. At the end of the 7th day, lying flat on my sad little yoga mat bed, I thought. Only 3 more weeks. I can do anything for 3 weeks. Right. Days 8-12, learning how to suffer gracefully. The 2nd week started like a bad sequel. Same pain, less adrenaline, way more bitterness. At this point, my body wasn't even trying to protest anymore. It had entered some weird Stockholm Syndrome phase where the floor was just home now. Standing, squatting, kneeling, that was my existence, my brand. Day 8. The worst part. Normal life kept rolling on like nothing had changed. Study group after class. Everyone sprawled on cozy couches in the student lounge. Me, perching like a disgraced pigeon on the edge of a coffee table, trying to balance a laptop on my knees without accidentally flashing anyone. My friend Amanda asked, "Why are you sitting like a dad fixing a VCR?" Nate had already poisoned the well by telling everyone about my no-comfort challenge, so they just laughed. I laughed too, then went home and cried into a pillow. Day 9. We went shopping. Because apparently, I hate myself. Walking around Target for 2 hours is normally fine. Walking around Target for 2 hours when you're already physically wrecked and can't sit anywhere. Pure hell. At one point, I saw a display armchair with a Try ME sign and had to physically stop myself from diving onto it like a starving hyena. Nate noticed. Nate cackled. I mentally filed for divorce, kidding, mostly. Day 10. By now, my brain had gone full weirdo mode. I started daydreaming about sitting. Like fantasizing about chairs. Nice ones, ugly ones, didn't matter. Give me a folding chair from a truck stop bathroom, I'd marry it. I actually made a Pinterest board titled Chair Porn. Other recliners, dining sets, rocking chairs by fireplaces. It was both hilarious and deeply concerning. Nate caught me scrolling it late at night and just silently handed me a cookie without saying anything. I have never felt so seen. Or so judged. Day 11. We went to a movie with friends. You can guess how that went. Everyone filed into the plushy velvet seats like gods among mortals. Me. I stood awkwardly against the side wall like a security guard who lost their badge. I tried to act normal, but my legs were absolutely losing it by the second act. I ended up squatting in the aisle for the rest of the movie, trying not to block anyone's view while also pretending my thighs weren't shaking like a washing machine full of bricks. Someone's kid pointed at me and asked loudly, "Why is that lady sitting weird?" Conic. Day 12. Another workday. Another full shift pretending that leaning artistically against walls was a personality trait. Coworker offered me a chair for the 5th time. I snapped slightly and said, "I can't sit because I made a dumb bet with my dumb boyfriend and now my spine is a question mark." She blinked, then just said, "Damn, girl boss energy." Honestly, that fueled me for the next 3 hours. Week 2, overall reflections. Body constantly sore but adapting. My squat form, absolutely Olympic level by now. Mind, half joking, half spiraling. Relationship, Nate was getting way too much joy from this, dangerously close to being banned from the couch himself. Social life, rapidly gaining a reputation as that weird standing girl, but also earning Loki respect. At the end of day 12, while lying flat on the floor staring at the ceiling fan, I realized I wasn't just physically uncomfortable. I missed the feeling of pausing. Sitting isn't just about rest, it's about stopping. Taking a breath. Feeling like the world can slow down for a second. Without it, life was just constant motion, constant low-grade struggle. No wonder I was exhausted. Days 13-17, the breaking point almost. Day 13. By now, getting up off the floor had turned into an Olympic event. It was like Stage 1, rollover. Stage 2, hands and knees. Stage 3, weird lunge move. Stage 4, question all my life choices. I swear my knees made a sound like Rice Krispies every time I stood up. Snap, crackle, pop. At work, one of my regulars, this sweet old man named Mr. Calvin, saw me squatting to restock a bottom shelf and asked if I needed help. I smiled and said no, but inside my soul screamed, "Yes, please carry me." Day 14. The temp dropped. First cold front of the season. Normally, I'd curl up on the couch with Nate, a blanket, and a stupid Netflix Christmas movie even though it was only October. Now, I stood awkwardly wrapped in 3 layers like some sort of Depression-era street urchin. At one point, Nate absent-mindedly patted the couch next to him and said, "Come here." Without thinking, I half sat. Half. I caught myself 2 inches above the cushion, heart pounding, hands trembling, and stood back up so fast I gave myself whiplash. Nate looked up wide-eyed. "You almost broke," he said, whispering like we were in church. I said nothing, just stared into the distance like a war veteran remembering the trenches. First real close call. First real panic. Day 15. New problem. My body was adapting to standing, but my brain was turning into soup. At school, I couldn't concentrate during a long seminar. Everyone else sat in those comfy auditorium chairs. I stood at the back like a disgruntled tour guide. Professor asked a question. I opened my mouth to answer and literally forgot what the words were halfway through. Just complete brain fog. Later, I tried to study at a coffee shop. Except surprise, no CHRS for me. I leaned against the wall like some rejected vampire, while other people typed happily at their tables. Day 16, the temptation. This was the worst day. We had a tiny get-together at Nate's friend's place. Lots of junk food. Board games. Bonfire in the backyard. It was perfect. Warm fire. Good music. People laughing, sinking into those big camping chairs with beers in hand. And there I was, standing like a dumbass. My legs hurt, my back ached. I wanted so badly to just plop down in one of those saggy nylon chairs and disappear. Someone even dragged a chair toward me and said, "Come on, you look miserable." They didn't know about the challenge. And for a second, 1 second, I stepped forward. I could see myself sitting down. I could feel the chair already. I imagined it cradling me like a loving grandma. It would have been so easy. Nobody would have judged me. Nobody even knew. But I looked across the yard at Nate. He was watching me, smirking, waiting, and I thought, if I sit now, he wins. Reader, I did not sit. I dropped into a wide squat like a deranged frog and roasted my marshmallow in silence, vibrating with rage and pride in equal measure. Day 17. After surviving temptation, everything else felt a little easier. Still sucked, but easier. At home, I cleaned the whole apartment standing up, blasting rage music through my headphones like some tiny, furious maid. At work, I stacked books while humming aggressively cheerful songs. Pain had become background noise. Awkwardness. A part of the aesthetic now. Honestly, I started to feel weirdly proud. Like, sure, it was dumb. Sure, it made no logical sense. But how often do you promise yourself something and actually follow through? I was doing it. I was becoming the stubborn floor goblin I was always meant to be. Week 3 reflection, halfway through. Body, miserable but functional, honestly stronger than expected. Mind, delirious but stubborn. Temptations, survived a major boss battle, bonfire chair incident. Pride, skyrocketing in a very chaotic, self-destructive way. Relationship with Nate, 80% teasing, 20% dangerously competitive. Days 8 and 22, when the tables turned. Day 18. At this point, I had become a standing professional. A squatting expert. A certified floor dweller. My coworkers barely noticed anymore. New people at school just assumed I had a thing and moved on. Honestly, it was the closest I've ever come to being a celebrity. People whispered, "That's the girl doing that crazy no-sitting thing, right?" Yeah, she's been doing it for weeks. No way, I can't even stand in line for Starbucks without dying. It was weirdly flattering. And a little sad. Day 19. Minor problem. My knees had officially filed for divorce. They hurt. They popped. They screamed every time I had to crouch or stand. After class, I tried to kneel while writing some notes. Big mistake. I practically dislocated a whole sole. Nate saw me limping around the apartment that night and said, half joking, "Maybe you should tap out." I glared at him. He immediately raised his hands, like he was talking down a wild animal. "I'm just saying," he protested. "This wasn't supposed to be like serious. You don't have to die over it." I squinted at him. Hard. Long. Dangerous. In my head, dramatic Western showdown music was playing. Day 20, the plot thickens. Nate brought it up again the next morning. "You've already proven your point," he said. "I mean, come on, it's been almost 3 weeks. You're clearly stronger than me, let's just call it right." He laughed nervously. Nervously. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just feeling bad for me. He was scared. Scared of what was waiting for him when I won. Because remember, the original bet was winner gets one wish. No limits. He was starting to realize he was playing with fire. Day 21, sweet, sweet power. I said nothing. Just smiled at him sweetly. Real sweet. Terrifyingly sweet. "You're terrifying," he muttered. Later that day, he casually started offering me things. First, it was a shoulder rub. Then he made dinner. Then he washed the dishes, without me even asking. At the time he offered to do my laundry and vacuum the living room, I knew. Victory was mine. This wasn't just about sitting anymore. This was about pride, honor, and sweet, sweet future revenge. Day 22, tiny moment of doubt. Round midday, my body hit a wall. Full crash. I stood up too fast after crouching and got super dizzy. I had to grab the counter to steady myself. Nate freaked out. "That's it, we're done. I'm calling it. You win. Please just sit down before you faint and crack your skull." For a second, 1 second, I hesitated. Because honestly, I felt awful. Every cell in my body wanted to sit. But then I remembered. I didn't come this far to half-ass it now. I made a promise. And I wasn't gonna let either of us off that easy. So I shook my head and said, "Nah, I'm good, 8 more days. You can survive the fear." He groaned and buried his face in a pillow. Week 4 start reflection. Body hanging on by duct tape and sheer spite. Mind running purely on caffeine and stubbornness. Relationship, Nate realizing he majorly screwed himself over. Peak entertainment. Mood, smug, so very smug. Days 23:30, the final countdown. Day 23. At this point, my default position was either awkwardly standing or angry squatting. I didn't even think about it anymore. My body hurt constantly, but it was like background noise now. Like living next to a highway. You hate it at first, and then one day you realize you can't even hear it. Nate, meanwhile, had officially entered his villain arc. Every time he looked at me, he had this haunted expression. Man knew his days of freedom were numbered. Day 24, the wedding situation. This was the day it all nearly fell apart. We had to attend a wedding. One of Nate's cousins. A fancy church wedding. Long, formal, traditional. You know the vibe. Everybody in uncomfortable clothes, packed into long wooden pews. And guess what? Pews benches equals chairs. I stood awkwardly near the aisle, while everyone else slid in and sat down. Some old lady glared at me like I was blocking her view of Jesus. Nate whispered, "You can sit just for the ceremony. Nobody's gonna know." But I knew. I would know. I leaned against the wall like a sleepy ghost through the whole 90-minute service, knees wobbling, sweat trickling down my back under my dress. One toddler kept pointing at me like, "Mommy, what's wrong with that lady?" Conic. Day 25. New problem, microaggressions from furniture. I swear, every bench, stool, and armchair I saw looked extra inviting now. Like seductive. At the grocery store, a bench near the exit practically winked at me. In class, I found myself staring at empty chairs like some weird Victorian ghost mourning her lost humanity. Worst part. Nate started narrating the furniture. "Look at that chair, she's lonely. She misses you," he said, patting a park bench. I hated him, but also respected the hustle. Day 26. Pain update. Back demolished. Knees made of sad spaghetti. Feet personal hell. But at the same time, I weirdly felt stronger. Like feral strong. If someone mugged me at that moment, I think I could have just screamed them into another dimension. And people noticed. One of my professors actually said, "You're tougher than you look." High praise. Genuinely. Day 27, the chair attack. I went to a coffee shop to cram for an exam. I ordered my drink, turned around, and bam. Chair ambush. The whole shop was packed. No empty space near the wall, no open counters. Just tables and chairs. All eyes on me. "Barista, you can sit anywhere." Me out loud, "No thank you." Barista confused, "You don't want to sit." Me internally, "You fool, you simple mortal." So I ended up kneeling awkwardly in a corner by the napkin stand, sipping my coffee like Gollum guarding the One Ring. Zero shame left. Day 28. Victory was so close I could taste it. Every muscle screamed. Every joint begged for mercy. But at this point, the idea of quitting was more unbearable than the pain. Nate tried one last, desperate move. He bought a giant, oversized bean-bag chair and plopped it in the middle of the living room. A trap. Beautiful, cozy, marshmallowy trap. I laughed. Laughed like a woman unhinged. "You can't break me," I told him, stepping over the bean-bag like it was lava. He looked genuinely frightened. Day 29. Nate started calling me the floor queen. Honestly, not the worst nickname. I spent most of the day squatting, cleaning the apartment, meal prepping, moving like a weird, determined crab. My squats were so smooth, I could have won a CrossFit competition without training. Day 30, the end game. The final day. I woke up sore, tired, emotionally spent, but also proud. I worked a full shift on my feet. Took my final exam, standing at the back of the room. Went grocery shopping, again leaning against carts like some exhausted Disney villain. Every chair I passed whispered, "You can sit now, you made it." But I refused. I didn't want the final sit to be random. It had to mean something. At 11:59 p.m. I sat down. Deliberately. Solemnly. Right onto the couch at home. It felt incredible. Soft. Glorious. like being hugged by God himself. Nate sat next to me, silent, waiting. I turned, smiled, and said, "You ready to pay up?" He paled. The wish was mine. Victory was complete. Final reflection. Body, broken but built stronger. Mind, unstoppable chaos energy. Pride, astronomical levels. Relationship with Nate, heavily tilted in my favor now, as it should be. Wish and beyond, after 30 days of no-sitting. Next morning, Nate made pancakes. Not just any pancakes, guilt pancakes. Fluffy, buttery, loaded with strawberries. He even brought them to me, on a tray, while I was sprawled like a queen across the couch. "Anything you want," he said, bowing dramatically. "Your wish is my command." God, I loved that man. But I loved winning even more. The wish. I made him sweat a little first. Pretended I was still deciding. In reality, I'd known what I wanted for weeks. I said, "Remember the time you said you'd do anything I wanted?" He nodded, looking scared again. I grinned and dropped the bomb. "You're taking me on a week-long vacation. Somewhere nice, your treat, full planning included, no complaints." He blinked, opened his mouth, closed it, then sighed in defeat. "Fine, where do you want to go?" I smiled wider. "Surprise me. Pure evil, maximum chaos. Planning payback." For the next few days, Nate researched like his life depended on it. He made spreadsheets. He read travel blogs. He texted my friends, trying to figure out what places I liked. It was adorable and hilarious. I caught him stress-eating trail mix at 2 a.m. once while reading articles titled, "Top 10 Romantic Getaways That Won't Break Your Soul." King behavior. The trip. 2 weeks later, we went to Asheville, North Carolina. Cabins. Mountains. Nature trails. Hot tubs. I barely moved from hammocks and couches the entire trip. If I wasn't lounging, I was being fed something delicious. It was everything I could have hoped for. I'd even massaged my feet without being asked once. Proof miracles are real. The aftermath. When we got home, I thought the sitting ban would undo itself instantly. Like cool, back to normal. Nope. For a few weeks after, I couldn't sit comfortably for long periods. My body got restless. I fidgeted. I shifted. Sometimes I straight up chose to squat on the floor instead of grabbing a chair. Absolute gremlin behavior. Also, I weirdly gained some respect at work and school. People thought I was, like, super dedicated or something. "If she can stand through an entire month," my manager said once, "she can definitely handle this project deadline." Fair enough. The big lessons. Looking back, here's what I learned. Comfort is a drug. You don't realize how addicted you are until it's gone. The human body is insanely adaptable. The first few days, torture. After that, just life. Spite is a powerful fuel source. I'm not proud, but it's true. And most importantly, never, ever, ever make a bet involving anything you want unless you're ready to pay up. Because some people, me, will cash that check with interest. Final mood. Me, thriving. Nate, slightly traumatized. Chairs, fearful of my power. 10-10 would do it again. Maybe, after my knees forgive me.